All right, guys, another day in the book, and the Bears are meeting with a ton of guys right now on the offensive line. That's what all you guys wanted to see, so we thought we better give the update here before I head off to some other fun today. Let's go straight to some of the highlights from yesterday. This is the cornerbacks and the linebackers, and I know this is a little bit small on your screen, but I'll just point out some of the highlights from yesterday. You got Maxwell Harrison and Darian Porter, who really shined on the cornerback side. Look at that 4.28 speed right there. Freaking blazing fast, as well as 4.3 speed. And then the same on the vertical jump. I kind of cut this off where there's a big difference in times or distance. So Caleb Renshaw, 40-inch vert. Maxwell Harrison, 39.5-inch vert. And then over on the broad jump, Robert Launchbeam. I honestly have not looked into him at all from Rutgers. And this is, where you mix the tape and the rankings and where they all come from and the distance. And when they put up athletic things, you have to look into them more. So it's exactly what I'm talking about with what these teams, the GMs, they're sitting in their boxes. They watch these guys, and you see Maxwell Harrison here do a 10.9, and you do see Caleb Renshaw, who was one of the top prospects from Tulane. You see him do a 10.9. Caleb Renshaw did a 4.3, 340. But you see these broad jumps, and then you say, does this guy have more athleticism than we realized? Then what it does, I'm telling you, this doesn't change their rankings baked just off how they run a 40, how they do a broad jump. But what it does is it says, hey, is this guy more athletic than we realized? Then they take it back to the tape. Then they go back into the war room. They look at the tape and say, hey, did we overlook this guy a little bit? Then if the tape matches up the production of athleticism, that's what makes someone rise the rankings a little bit. It's not just solely on the combine. I'm telling you, it's not just on the combine. Then we look over here on the safeties. Sorry, this is cornerbacks. This is safeties down here. Cornerbacks up here, safeties down here. And the clear star from the safety position was Nick Emmanwori across the board. 4.38 40 time. His vert was 43 freaking inches. 43. That is ridiculous. And then an 11.6 broad jump. The last time someone 6'3" and over 220 pounds ran a sub 4.4 speed and put up these kind of athleticisms was DK Metcalf. And I thought I had it here to compare, so I had to hurry and pull it up on my phone. But DK Metcalf ran a 4.33 40, a 1.45 10-yard split, 40.5 vert, and 11-foot 2-inch broad jump. So very similar. The only two guys that have ever been this big to do that, one a wide receiver, one a safety. So it's worth comparing the two, and that is some freak athleticism. So I'm going to pull up here. This is just for fun. I'm going to pull up. This was Marquise Single, free safety from Kansas State, who had a good combine, 9.53. Maxwell Harrison, 9.68. Caleb Renshaw, 9.96 right here. Really nice combine, 5'11". 197. One thing to note here with the cornerbacks that I didn't note. Now, not everyone does all of their athletics. Not everyone does everything. So Travis Hunter, who's one of the top picks in the draft, didn't run the 40. A lot of these guys don't run the 40, don't do some of that stuff. They'll do that at their pro day. But he did weigh in heavier, which is a good thing, than many anticipated. Many thought he was around 170-ish. He weighed in at 188. So Travis Hunter could be raising even more on the boards when you see something like that. But then I have to point this out with Nick Emmanwori. So from Kentley Platt, who does the math bomb, the RAS scores, Nick Emmanwori hit 10.00 at strong safety, would hit it at free safety and cornerback as well. He'd also hit 10 at wide receiver. Thought he'd actually be number 2 behind Calvin Johnson. There's a lot of wide receivers, so due to rounding it such, he'd actually be 9.999. Hits 9.87 at linebacker with size dipping him. Now, those who follow my channel know I've been hot on Nick Emmanwori for a while. I've mocked him in the very first mock drafts I did. Other places had him ranked in the second plus round, and I've said on the channel he's a first rounder, but I get excited and want to put him at 39 in case he ever fell. No shot of him falling when people see this freak athleticism. So this is just for fun. These are all the different RAS scores they put together. Each position has a different grading for their RAS scores. But you look at Nick Emmanwori, who is naturally a strong safety. So he had a 10 on that too. But you put him at free safety, 10.00, 6'3", 220 pounds. And I even said on the channel before, I said the exact comparison. He's a linebacker that has such freak athleticism, he could play anywhere in the backfield on the defense. It's absolutely bizarre how freak of an athlete this guy is. He is unique. He's going to be special. So here's even at linebacker, 6'3", 220, and that's the only knock on him is he's too light to be a full-time linebacker. But if you lined him up in linebacker and had him on blitz packages going after the quarterback, you would have a monster. I will not be upset at all. And I know this is too bright behind me, guys. I apologize. I probably should just pull me off stage completely. There's no necessary for me being here. See you later. So he's just a freak athlete. I would not mind the Bears drafting him at all. I understand at 10, you don't want to, yeah, I get it. We have so many needs in the trenches. But if we trade down from 10 to, say, 17, 18, which we've had it's been alluded to by Ryan Poles that he wants to do that. This is what he said in his candid interview before the Combine with ChicagoBears.com directly. He said the biggest takeaway, right in the middle of all this, the biggest takeaway and the most impactful part of the Combine is always getting to be the medical. Poles said it's what you can see and what's going to give him clarity, which was really important. All right, if you saw my confusion there, guys, I'm trying to hurry so I can get to the Cubs game. I apologize. Please forgive me for the blunder. That's in a minute. We're going to get to Josh Simmons. The Bears have met with Josh Simmons and his medical. Let's go back to this part, get it back in line. Bring it back. Let's get right back on track here. So with the number 10 selection this year, the spotlight isn't nearly as blinding, but general manager Ryan Poles isn't changing how he prepares for the draft, especially this week in Indianapolis. Really, the approach is the same, Poles told ChicagoBears.com. We're just trying to gather as much information about the players that we interact with. We know sitting at 10, there's probably going to be some really good opportunities for us to improve our football team. But with this draft, there's also enough depth in the first round that I believe that you could actually move back a little bit and still pick up a good player. So I'm not proposing the Bears go get Nick Emmanwori. I think we have bigger needs, but he's one of those guys that I fall in love with every year. And Nick Emmanwori is that guy this year that I'm just like, oh, if there's any way for the Bears to make Nick Emmanwori a Bear, this would be my dream, and I would love it. I give it a 1% chance of happening. In fact, they haven't even met with him at the Combine. I don't see it happening. Some team is going to be enamored by him, take him really high. I don't see it for the Bears. But here he is I'm just taking this straight from Twitter feed for you guys. It's kind of the easiest way for me to share it. 43 freaking inches.
Are they projecting if they can play long-term with the speed? Are they projecting if they can play right now? What are your thoughts on that injury right there, which obviously the Hall of Fame is littered with the injuries? This was
There's his 4.38.
3, 8, and a round of applause.
That is awesome.
He ran and then hopped and he skipped and he jumped.
The look, though, of a man who knows he can go faster than
absolutely. That third step there, he actually goes left instead of staying straight.
And here he is against CeeDee Lamb, Jordan Pickens, and Justin Jefferson.
A little disjointed there. So I was legit upset. Maxwell Harrison
there's
was
this broad
not
jump.
happy
Ridiculous.
With the 4.3 flat.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you watch it back, you guys have done this a lot. Oh, yeah. NIL small.
Absolutely ridiculous as a prospect. I mean, I would love to see him as a Bear. Not going to happen. I mean, realistically, it's not going to happen. But in that same process, if the Bears do trade down from 10, which if you've got to have a trade partner, that's the biggest thing. And all teams are seeing this the same way, that between 10 and 50, it's basically the same level of prospect. Multiple teams have talked about that. Well, here's the thing. If someone falls to the Bears at 10 that they didn't expect at 10, that is one of those true blue chip guys, they take him. But if not, and one of the other teams see one of their guys at 10 that's a true blue chip team, it's a great position for the Bears to be in, sitting right there at 10. Because it's the verge line of where these excellent players meet needs and meet trading back. So it's the perfect spot to be in. So if the Bears can pull that off, if some team wants to come up from 18, 17, and give us good value, give us multiple picks, give us an opportunity to continue to build with this draft, the Bears absolutely have to take that path. All right, let's continue on with the tight end position, because here in just literally in a couple minutes, is going to start the wide receivers, quarterbacks, and you're going to have and running backs, and you're going to have fun watching them at the Combine. But some of the ones that stood out at the tight end position on tape, I did I guess on athletics, we should say. I did the video this morning of Terrance Ferguson because of it. So if you haven't checked that out, check him out. Terrance Ferguson won basically every area of the athletics. 4.6, 340 for a tight end is very quick. 10'2" broad jump. A couple of guys, Joshua Simon's one to note as well. He did well on everything as well. Vertical jump 39, did really well. But this is where I'm going to tell you guys, it's not all just about the athletics, because like I said, you take that, then you go back and look at tape. And I did. I went back and looked at some tape. Now, mine's limited. I haven't looked at as much as an NFL team would. But I saw some things on Terrance Ferguson where I looked at him initially and I said, okay, I can see him as a verge third-round guy, probably turn of the comps into the fourth round. If we had the Ian Cunningham picks, he would be a really nice pick to have. So that's kind of how I viewed him. As I looked again, I saw better blocking than I saw before, and I saw really crispness when he was on top of his game, where he can run routes really smooth. So I said, you know what, 372, I would take him at 372. I would do that. And so that's how these things work. You watch these freak athletes go off, and you relook at it and you say, actually, I might move him up my board a little bit. And that's the same thing NFL teams are going to do. So as I'm sitting here at home or in the Airbnb and in Phoenix, as I do this, it's the same thing NFL teams are going to do. They're not going to say, okay, we're going to take Terrance Ferguson 110 overall. This just blew our minds. This changed everything. We're going to take him too high now. But it's going to say, you know what? This guy might fit us really well. There's some traits here that I really like. He can block. He's developmental. He's not fully into his frame yet. He's not complete with his game. But there's a lot of high upside here with this kid. I can see some Sam Laporta-esque type qualities here. Man, I'm not even trying to compare him to Sam Laporta, guys. I'm just saying some qualities with route running in his hands. This might be worth taking at 372. That 72 pick has some good value there. And there's going to be several guys. They line up on their big board. And then when it gets time to come down to pick 72, they look at this and they say, okay, this guy moved up. We've got this, and this here. Which one are we going to take? Well, maybe Emory Jones is sitting there too, who the Bears met with today. Oh, do we need the lineman more? Do we need a tight end 2 more? What do we need? And that's how this whole process plays out. Now, I told you guys before, it's not just about one thing. It's not just about the athletics. There's also other drills that they don't show that they don't show on paper, that when you watch them, that's what I do with the combine, is I watch all this stuff and compile it together and say which guy stood out. And this straight line on the gauntlet by Mason Taylor is freakish. I mean, this might be as impressive as a vertical or anything else that you're looking at with the athletics. Mason Taylor here, as he runs this gauntlet, he makes it look flawless. He makes it look effortless. He makes it look just casual. And it might not make sense how hard this is to do, but going back and forth, catching, while you're running a straight line down this, there's a reason they have them run right down that 30 or 40-yard line, straight down the line. And you're not going to see anybody else run this as crisp and clean as he just did this. Watch this. This is literally, I'm watching this last night live or on my playback because I went to a game. As I'm watching this, I literally, my eyes, and then this is the replay. They eventually pulled it up. Rich Eisen said, can we get that with the tracker on here? And then I, obviously snipped this and just watch. This is phenomenal.
Look at the line.
Oh my!
Look at that thing.
Oh my goodness! I've never seen this before.
That
Might not seem significant, guys, but if you actually watch the combine, you'll know that was neat. That was special. If you watch the combine, you'll know how cool that was. So Mason Taylor is someone we started to get some build up from the Senior Bowl. We started seeing some positive there. I think he's a name you need to watch out for. He could go into the second round. He could be separating himself with what he's doing. So I really was high on Mason Taylor as well. So here's some of those guys. Like I said, Mason Taylor didn't do everything. So he didn't do the 40. He didn't do he didn't do all that stuff. So the guys that did, some of the ones I was impressed with, Terrance Ferguson really impressed me quite a bit over here. Joshua Simon made him rise a little bit more. I need to look at more tape on him, but I always saw him as too little. I've given him more of a wide receiver type of role, more of a Y tight end than anything. So I haven't looked too deeply into Joshua Simon. I'll admit that. So I will look more into him. But when you see his athleticism, when you see what he was putting on tape there yesterday, it says, okay, maybe I'll take a better look at him. Mitchell Evans was one I was pretty high on. I liked his size, but his showing at the combine didn't really show up to where you want it to be to take him in a third round. Maybe if he falls to fifth round, sixth round, you're going to consider that more. But this is kind of how you view those things as you say, you know what, I watched this tape. The biggest thing I liked about Mitchell Evans was his height and his weight, the size he held, and then some of his blocking. I liked a lot of that. And now I got to look at tape again and say, okay, does he have enough package to be a tight end worth taking, though, for the Bears? So, okay, let me take me off screen. This is the part you guys want to see. This is where we are today. You've got the defensive backs and tight ends now doing the bench press and doing their final stuff. They're almost gone. What's going to start literally right now is the on-field workout for your running backs, quarterbacks, and wide receivers. You had the team interviews and the media interviews with the offensive linemen today. That's where you learn about most of what the Bears have been meeting with is in these media interviews. So that's where you hear about these things. One thing that I learned today that almost got overlooked by a lot of people, Joshua Gray did not formally meet with the Bears today from Oregon State, but he mentioned he met with them at the Senior Bowl, one that we didn't have on our list. And it's a good reminder, we aren't going to know every single player the Bears meet with. In fact, at the Combine, they're allowed 60 visits for 15 to 20 minutes on those visits. Well, right here, we've got just over half of those 60 visits, and you don't hear about everyone. No team is going to come out and openly say, this is all the 60 that we met with. There's no reason for them to do that. But when we hear about them, we report them, and here's the news from today. So here's all we have, and this will be a pretty close to final list. You might hear about more coming out, but here's all the offensive linemen from today that you heard about meeting with. And there's some big names, some clear first rounders, second rounders, into the third round, even possibly fourth round with some of these guys, even fifth round maybe. So there's a lot of big names to watch. Josh Simmons, the injured tackle from Ohio State who's recovering, who did not participate because he's still on the injury path. They say he's healthy enough right now to participate in the Combine, but he's going to wait till his pro day. So he is going to participate in his pro day. He's going to make it closer to the draft too, so he can be, he wants that knee to rehab as much as possible. He wants to get it as clean and ready as he can for it to go. So he's going to wait till April to do his pro day. I'll be excited and eager to see how he does with that. Will Campbell from LSU, Tyler Booker from Alabama, Gray Zabel from North Dakota State, Jonah Savaya from Arizona, Holland Pierce from Rutgers, who we've brought up quite a bit on this channel, Ozzie Trapillo from Boston College, Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. I mean, these guys alone, Tyler Booker, Donovan Jackson, the guard position, Josh Simmons, Will Campbell, tackle, Will Campbell possibly guard, Jonah Savaya guard, Holland Pierce tackle later, Ozzie Trapillo tackle later, Emory Jones, who did not have a good year this last year, but the year before was very highly touted, and Hayden Connor from Texas. There's just so much work the Bears are doing on this offensive line to try to make sure it's shored up. I love that alone in the due diligence. One of the other things that came out in one of the interviews was they asked, did they do putt-putt golf? Did they do darts? What did they do with you? They said, no, we didn't play any games this year. They just wanted to get a deep understanding of my knowledge of the game and how I would interact on different situations. I thought that was crucial. You got a whole new coaching staff. You got Ben Johnson. You got Eric Bieniemy in there with the running backs, who was reported to be interviewing with Omarion Hampton and Ashton Jemty. You've got Dennis Allen in there, and you've got Ryan Poles in there. And instead of going the path before, if it didn't work, change it up. If it's broke, fix it. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Well, clearly that interview process, they were working too hard to get guys at ease, and we want to see you relaxed. We want to see how you interact with us. Well, no, let's get your knowledge of the game on this one. Let's see who's a true dog with their knowledge. And I really respect that was the difference this year, that the Bears are going with more of that approach this year as opposed to before. So I like that quite a bit. Those are all the big names from today. Josh Simmons, Will Campbell, and there's a lot of them. Will Campbell, Tyler Booker, Gray Zabel, Jonah Savaya, Holland Pierce, Ozzie Trapillo, Donovan Jackson, Emory Jones, Hayden Connor. The Bears are clearly going to put a priority on the offensive line. Combine that with yesterday with Mason Graham, Jamry Cromwell, Alfred Collins, Michael Williams, Jalen McLeod, Shamar Stewart on the defensive line. There's going to be some focus on the trenches for sure with this team as we move into the draft. So we will have the 40 times. We'll have a lot more on that. I'll try to update you tomorrow on any changes that happen with any other interviews, any formal interviews, because they get 60. This is what we've learned about so far. So any of those changes, I will try to get to you guys tomorrow. There's going to be, of course, some excitement to report with the wide receivers, running backs, and their drills. You know, the 40 times, the shuffle, the shuttle, the 3-cone, the vertical, the long jump. So all those things will be important for those positions. It's very good to see their athleticism more than most positions. Running back, wide receiver, those are important positions. We're not really caring about the quarterback position this year, but that'll be going on too. But with all these things, there's a lot of excitement at the combine and a lot of direction the Bears are clearly pointing towards. You know, the safety maybe later. Tight end was a priority there. Linebacker, we weren't sure if the Bears would be drafting a linebacker. They're clearly keeping it on the board. But a clear and obvious focus on the trenches, defensive and offensive lines. So it's getting very exciting. And right after this, right after the combine's over, you're going to start seeing those top 30 visits, and you'll start seeing formal pro days set up with schools, with individual players, and we'll report where the Bears are going to and which teams they're visiting and which players they're focusing on. So I do appreciate all of you guys. This channel I'm trying to put a ton of work into, trying to get everyone excited, trying to be a big part of this Bears community. If you don't mind, please hit that like button, subscribe, turn on your notifications. We're doing everything we can to bring you the breaking news, the biggest insights, everything we can to keep the focus on the Bears through this offseason as we build this team to the future. So I do appreciate you guys. Appreciate all your support. If you don't mind hitting that like button, subscribe, hit the notifications, share it with your friends, do what you can, and I appreciate you guys. Till next time, the Bears, and bear down.